So for topics today, I think there's been a lot of people asking like what is the flow going to look like to launch a chainlet? So I figured I would kind of go through that real quick, and then we can go through some more detail and just talk about the Saga Innovator program and who we're looking for. Some takeaways from Consensus and NFT NYC. And then we'll open it up to questions from anybody in the audience or look at some of the questions that have been posted throughout the week.
Fantastic.
Cool. I guess I can probably just get started here. I'll just jump into what we're looking at the flow for launching a chainlet to be. And we have a saying that we want launching a chain to be as simple as launching a smart contract on a typical chain. And so really we want to have like a guided user interface that lets you pretty much just with a couple clicks, not deep technical knowledge on blockchain technology to be able to launch your own for at first EVM chain and then future for Cosm Wasm and other virtual machines. So to get to that point, it may take a minute. At first, I think the developers of the team are going to have to do some work around sizing how much block space they need for their community. And then, like I said, that's just a function of how big your community is and how active they're going to be using your chain or your game or whatever. So, yeah, that's kind of a rough idea about what we want the flow to look like. Just as simple as launching a smart contract with just a little bit of extra work around guessing your the amount of demand you will need for your community. So, does anybody on the team have any additional comments on that or anything that should be clarified?
Nope, Joe, keep going. So yeah, that's how block space is sort of allocated to begin with. But I think people might be interested in hearing what is the like how do I go about deploying this magical chain as a developer? Maybe a short reminder on that. I mean, the flow hasn't changed since we put the basic information in the light paper, but for anyone who's just joining us or for anyone who'd like a refresher, I think it'd be helpful to share that.
Yeah, I guess it'd probably be helpful to go. We've talked about this quite a bit because it's one of the unique factors about Saga is just the differentiation between the front end and the back end tokenomics. So when a developer wants to launch a chain, they would go through the guided user interface around spinning up their own virtual machine, their own independent chain that they operate, and then estimating how much user flow and how much block space they'll need. And then after that, they have to just fill up you could call it a gauge, or just like a reservoir with Saga coins. And then as that block space is consumed, then the gauge, the amount of Saga coins would drop accordingly. And then the developer team would just have to ensure that that there was always funds in the bond, and the chain would continue to run. So on the front end, though, the developer is free to have whatever interactions or flow tokens exchanged to get access to the block space or trading or the game or whatever. So yeah, that's probably a pretty good summary of it.
Yeah, and actually, one of the
Uh,
things that we can do is probably make the bond wallet public so that not just the development team but anybody in the community can technically contribute to keeping the chain up essentially, so that it's a more of a community effort than just like one person doing it.
Yeah, and that transparency will also be good for users to see what the state of the chain is like and how much you could call it runway there is. So if it got too low, you could just be aware of the state of that chain. With that said, we have plans to have, you could call it like an exit parachute. So if a chain stopped paying its fees for the block space, the coins will be routed off that chain before it goes offline. So you won't be in risk of losing assets. But anyway, that's a little bit in the weeds.
Real quick, I want to mention we've got an AMA questions channel in the Discord, and there's a number of questions in there that people are asking. So if you're on the call listening and if you want to make a comment or question, like you could put it in there, unless there's a simple way to do it in the Discord chat that I'm not aware of. And we have a number of questions in there. Maybe we could get to those later. You want to get to them first, Joe, just because a few people are asking from yesterday.
Yeah, I'd say we'll get to those at the end, I think, for this call. And I'd also like to give the opportunity to anybody that's in the audience that wants to raise their hand and get on stage to get some, I guess, preferential treatment because you're here right now with us and we appreciate that. So, but yeah, we'll definitely go through the AMA list at the end.
We do want to know, the folks that are joined, we do want to know who you are and what you're working on and what you're thinking about. So feel free to reach out to any of us at any time because we want to have like a pretty open door and be as transparent as we can as we start building. So really, really appreciate everybody that's joined.
Yeah, and we're really looking to have a developer focus to this Discord call. So, I mean, with that said, like if you're just a community member that is passionate about Saga, has a question, feel free to get on stage. But if you're a developer, we especially want you to get up here and talk about what you're building and how we may work together, just some learnings that you've had from Web3, crypto, game design, all that good stuff.
Cool.
Sweet. Well, I feel like we went through a lot of the initial stuff on how to launch a chainlet. Like we said, with the typical Cosmos chain, you have to get together a validator set and incentivize them properly to run your chain, distribute a staking token, all that stuff. That is all obfuscated away and taken care of by Saga. So it really lowers the barrier of entry to launching a chain with the end goal of getting it as easy as launching a smart contract, but it'll be a process to get there. So we're probably good on how to launch a chainlet. If anybody has questions about that process, you can ask it later. We can probably get into the Saga Innovators program, which we are very excited about and want any developers that are interested to get on stage and talk to us and reach out in emails. So, Rex, do you want to go over a little bit detail on the Innovator program?
Absolutely. So here's what we like to do with the Innovator program. We want to find those developers out there that are doing really innovative, interesting, obviously all developers are doing interesting work. We're looking for folks that are really pushing the boundaries of what's possible in Web3. Maybe you're like Germund, I probably mispronounced that, who's setting up a custom chain on the Empower Plastic network. And he's doing that to help track the life cycle of recyclable goods. So we want to have those folks come in and participate in our Discord channels and our Twitter hangouts and our podcasts, maybe co-author Medium posts. And we want to highlight the work they're doing, both from impact perspective, whether it's a game or something like that. And we also want to get that thought leadership out there. So the Innovator program is built around highlighting folks like that are really pushing the boundaries. This is our first Discord community call, I think, unless we've had some other ones. So in coming weeks, we'd like, obviously it's bear market, the token prices are fluctuating. And I think that for the purposes of this Discord, what I'd like to focus on in coming weeks and months is, on the technologists, like the people that are implementing solutions and building solutions and like the trade-offs they're making and how they're architecting their platforms. And we'll focus on, things like gameplay, game design, Web3, game economy development, stuff like that. That's not necessarily, what did the token go up today or down? And I view that as what the innovator program is all about, is just keeping the focus on the technology during this difficult time period.
Thanks, Rex. I would just add to that. So we absolutely are looking for innovators, i.e. individuals, such as yourselves who are doing cool things. But AlphaNet does come out in a couple months. And so we're already starting to onboard projects onto that. So if you're building something and you would like to try out AlphaNet, more than happy to chat with you. We're also actively finalizing some partnerships with other platforms, again, in anticipation of launch. So just want to let you guys know that this innovator program, it's really for people, but it's also for projects and partners. And Rex can go into a little more detail about what it means to be a part of the innovator program, what are some of the perks that you get and how you work with the team. But I just wanted to clarify that for everyone, that it's people in our community, it's projects, and it's partners.
Yep. So we're looking for we have a pretty good view of the kinds of stories that we're looking to highlight. Although we're always welcome to be surprised by what people are working on. So if you're building a really interesting project, or you're operating, a DAO, or working at an organization that's putting out games, from a technology perspective, we'd be really interested to talk with you. We're going to grow ultimately to 50 total innovators. And by AlphaNet launch, we're probably going to be going forward with a subsection of the 50, probably, I don't know if all 50, but maybe up to 10, 15, 20. So reach out to us and tell us about what you're working on. And then we'll do our best to highlight your work and see how we can support your go-to-market. We're also looking for early product feedback, like as we put out things like our CLI, our developer documentation, and our AlphaNet, like granting early access and insider access to innovators is something we're going to explore. And then we'd love a chance to understand like the trade-offs that you're making and how we can improve the product for your use case. So Joe, next steps, I suppose.
Yeah, I think that was pretty good coverage on the innovator program. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. You can go to our website, saga.xyz, and there will be a section where you can fill out to reach out to us and apply to the innovator program. So the next thing on the docket is just takeaways from Consensus at Austin, and then recap of and NFT NYC as well. So I guess I'll just start off with about Consensus Austin. This was the first time that our entire team in its current size has met up in person, and it was really great, and the team gelled incredibly well. So on that front, it was just a great success. And then on the conference front, I think my main takeaway is that crypto is like, it's getting massive and to the point of no return, in my opinion, even if we're in a bear market. The size of this event, the number of people there, the talent, the professionalism was pretty top shelf. So it was great to see a lot of the productive things happen at not actually on the conference floor. There's just parties and meetings all around the city where a lot of the business development and the people meeting happens that make things move forward. I'd love to hear what anybody else has to say about Consensus Austin at the team, and then we can go to some of the people that were at NFT NYC.
Yeah, absolutely. And oh, sorry, frog in the throat. So purpose of all these calls is, yes, you get to hear from the Saga team, but obviously we would love to hear from you guys as well. So later on in the call, once we start to invite people onto the stage, I mean, feel free to share questions, absolutely. But it's not all business. So if you want to share what's been happening in your individual projects, your own observations about crypto, please feel free to do that as well. And we'd love to hear later if you were at Consensus or NFT New York and really liked it, or didn't like it. Either way, feel free to share with all of us here. It really is meant to be a community. We all support one another. But in terms of our impressions from the two conferences, so this was Saga's first conference outing. We had been pretty quiet. The beginning of this year, we came out of stealth late March. We announced our seed raise in May. And so this was the first time that we really broke out as a team and went out there and met people as Saga. And Consensus was amazing because of everything Joe said, that this was the first time everyone on the team met one another. It's an amazing team. If we do say so ourselves, it is an amazing team. And we're all here for you, ultimately. I mean, we're all building the platform. We're working on Saga day-to-day operations, yes, but we're really all here for you. So anytime you want to reach out to anyone on the team, we are highly accessible. There's Discord, obviously, but there's also Telegram. If you ping us on Twitter, we'll also respond there. But the idea is to keep talking with all of you because you're the reason why we're here. So Consensus was great. We spoke a couple of times. So we did a presentation with Akash on just an overview of building in Web3 if you're coming from Web2, which is a theme that we're hearing more and more, is that we really want Web2 to come in, and Web2 wants to come in, but they just need to figure out how, and they need some help. But that was one presentation we did with Akash. We did a second presentation, or panel rather, where Jin spoke with people from Akash, people from, oh my God, I'm already blanking on the names. But I think Storage was there. I want to say Persistence was there as well. Also on the same theme, coming from Web 2 into Web 3. So that was great. I think that it's a odd time right now in the sense that I'm sure there's a lot of financial pain in the crypto markets. But having said that, this is different from last time around. Last time around, everyone held their assets in crypto, and that was it. And so if the market went down, you went down with it. This time around, I think there's a lot more diversification. So you do have crypto assets, but many of the institutional funds, as well as the projects, they are either converting the crypto into stablecoin or fiat. And so there's a lot more stability there. But all of that is to say that even though people were a little more muted this time around because it's not really a bull market, nevertheless, there's a lot of building happening. There's a lot of ambitious projects, a lot of great technology that's being birthed right now, and there is capital to support it. So I agree with Joe. We're not going anywhere. I don't think anyone else would be here if we thought we were going anywhere. But yeah, I think Consensus really reaffirmed that over the next, I would say 9 months to a year, it's going to be a very, very exciting period for new products coming out. NFT New York is very different. So for those of you who attend both conferences, you know that Consensus is really industry-wide. Anyone and everyone goes. Significantly more builders there. NFT New York is a huge party. It is a cultural bellwether for this industry, and it's a great deal of fun. We do meet a lot of really cool artists there and projects who are building really cool things. But we decided to go this year because of our focus on gaming and entertainment. Met a lot of cool projects, and I think gaming in particular is really starting to mature. And with respect to how it all relates to Saga, so on games, what we're hearing is there are a lot of Web 2 games and game studios that are looking to get into Web 3, but there are lots of questions for them. Namely, how do I still make this game fun, given all the constraints on blockchain infrastructure? And that's something that we can answer very handily. Chainlet is the ideal infrastructure for building games. You don't run into congestion or throughput issues. The gas fees are entirely determined by you. You could have no gas fees if you wanted to. And if you start to outgrow your chainlet, you just spin up another one very easily. So So we're hearing a lot of demand from gaming. There are also some issues around gaming and regulation. So where we're hearing get more and more pronounced because now NFTs that are generated in games, they're no longer just game rewards. They are actual assets that you want to be able to unlock. And you want to sell those, you want to borrow against those, all the cool things we do with DeFi, which means that we start to get into all the DeFi regulatory issues. As a lawyer, and I obviously no longer practice full time, but as someone who used to practice law, I am not too concerned. I think we'll work through these issues really well. But yeah, just as a heads up that even in something like gaming, regulation is starting to make itself known. The other thing I'll mention is with respect to NFTs. So NFTs are getting minted across all chains. I think what more NFT projects feel like, because the NFT platforms are getting more ambitious, is you need cross-chain functionality for NFTs. You need to be able to sell your NFTs and to verify the value of your NFTs across multiple different chains and ecosystems. In addition to that, NFT mints and functionality with respect to NFTs is also getting much more sophisticated and ambitious, which means that it's going to start running into a lot of the same issues that gaming runs into with these monolithic chains. Is all of a sudden it does matter that it's slow. It does matter if the chain goes down. It does matter if your gas fees are super high. And we kind of saw that already earlier this summer with Yuga Labs, as well as Solana halting quite frequently. But we're seeing NFT projects really start to pick up on it and do something about it. So there's a lot of demand there for Saga technology as well. But the whole purpose of standing up an innovator program, is to get closer to our community, really get to know the builders out there, and also to start really alleviating some of this demand. I mean, if they're looking for this technology and AlphaNet comes out in a couple months, then we really want that runway such that people don't have a cold start to AlphaNet, that they're already familiar with the platform, that we've done some co-marketing with them so that our community knows them. All the things that go into being a Saga builder. So yeah, really cool events. I've been talking a long time, so I'm going to shut up. Any other insights from the team, or if anyone in the audience would like to talk about this as well, please feel free to raise your hand, and we'll bring you to the stage later.
Yeah, Rex, I'd love to hear about your experience at NFT NYC. You did a lot of talking to a lot of different people, so love to hear your insights.
Yeah, so I attended a Protocol Labs event. I attended events by Stardust, who are doing kind of like a game backend as a service. Met with some infrastructure companies. I walked around the NFT game hall. So yeah, it felt to me like, if you told me that it was a bear market, I'm not sure I would have believed it. I mean, if it was a bull market, I imagine there'd have been even more people at that event. Maybe it's just a delay. Maybe in 6 months to a year or 2 years, it'll be a little different. But that event was quite busy. So I think on the developer front, one of the biggest trends that I'm seeing is just, I think people are having to be confronted with the potential complexity of moving from Web 2 into Web 3 as a developer. And just the Web 2 side was complex enough that you had all these services like, one example might be AppWrite, which is a Firebase-like company that kind of helps you put all the pieces together in a standardized way. So you don't have to stitch all the bits and pieces together you need to build and deploy an app. And then they're being confronted with the additional complexity that's coming out of the crypto space. I mean, you've got a dozen different ways of implementing blockchain infrastructure, or plugging into a blockchain infrastructure, or communicating, storing data, securing, all these different questions. And as a developer, in particular as a game developer, it's like, I just want to build a really good game. It's hard enough to do Unity and Unreal and the art and make the game work, connect to the community. And then when you add in all these additional layers of complexity, like, okay, I need to build and launch a game economy. What happens if I get hacked? What if I do something wrong in the game economy and all the coins get drained out of my economy into, somewhere else? So they have to inherit this additional layer of responsibility and connectivity in addition to building a great game. So I think the companies that seem to be poised to help be very helpful in this time period are groups like Third Web, Morales, and others that are kind of like offering this full stack end to end solution. And these kind of companies are helping on the front end of like how do you plug into a blockchain and build that into your game and build that into your infrastructure. And then Saga has a nice a series of different ways to plug into these companies to make it easier for you to spin up a chainlet as your in-game economy with a more consistent, easier to use front end. So I had a number of conversations with these companies like Third Web that are doing these kind of front end piece, and then they're trying to abstract away or make it more consistent to plug into like a chain infrastructure, a chain economy. So that was my biggest takeaway. Is I think the complexity is at a point where developers need a lot of help, and I had a lot of conversations about that. So yeah, it was a very busy event for sure. And on the gaming side, that was full steam ahead. I mean, I saw this group called the Blockchain Game Alliance. Haven't yet had a chance to follow up with them. Saw a lot of people that are doing things like mirroring real world assets with NFTs. It's like Shopify, but this shoe is in the metaverse in addition to you owning the shoe. So a lot of that kind of thing going on. And I definitely saw people launching their own chains. I saw several people in the NFT space that were building IP properties that had gone the route of doing their own chain. So I think the demand is going to be healthy, and as the Saga thesis evolves, I definitely saw support for that there. Yeah.
I loved your point around companies specializing in the blockchain side of things and like the game economy, and kind of the game developers almost like outsourcing that responsibility or that technical expertise. And I think that definitely seems like a inevitability, and partnering with those people that develop the game economies will be key, and having just Saga plugins or like you were describing.
Yeah, and I think it's the same as when in the beginning when cloud was really big. Technically anybody can put together like a server, like a hardware server somewhere, and then host it, and make sure that they don't get DDoS and stuff like that. But a lot of cloud providers made this a lot easier to do, and ultimately, so a lot of web developers decided to deploy on cloud providers instead. So I think it's very similar in my opinion, considering the complexity involved with setting up a blockchain, maintaining it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and then you can dive into like economic theory, where like a lot of stuff, it's like specialization of labor, where you can see that same pattern occurring over and over again, where the overall economy benefits from people just specializing in one field. So, and we're going to be specializing in providing block space, and hopefully teaming up with people specializing in game economies. So, yeah, that might be about it from Consensus and NFT NYC takeaways, unless anybody else has additional comments or anyone in the crowd wants to give their take on them. And then if not, we can just move forward to the Q&A section. Or if there's any developers that want to come on stage, that's also now would be an okay time. So yeah, I guess for now we'll just start running through some Q&A questions. If Zaki or Stinson, when you guys want to ask the questions, someone on the team can answer them.
Just going through the question queue, what is the most important feature that distinguishes Saga projects from other projects? From MCB earlier today.
Yeah, I'd say like a multi-chain approach from day one is probably what differentiates us from most of the crypto space. But you could say like what differentiates us from like Polkadot or like Cosmos Hub, for example. And I'd say it's just lowering the barrier of entry as low as possible. Where with like parachains, you have to put up like $1 million. I mean, at the peak, it was like $50, $100 million bonds, which is just unreasonable. And then Cosmos Hub shared security, you have to like shill yourself or put up a governance proposal and hope they pass it to get you on. Where we're just providing permissionless access to block space on a personally owned virtual machine, which there really isn't many people doing that besides like Avalanche, but they have their own interoperability issues as well as security issues with how they designed their system. Yeah, anybody else have? I'd also say another major differentiator is the split between the front end and the back end tokenomics that allows the front end to operate on whatever token is gas that they want. So it really opens up the field of who we can partner with. And we're already seeing massive dividends there, meeting up with some of the top crypto protocols that can't be named right now. But yeah, there's just a lot of momentum around that idea, and it really separates us from the pack. Does anybody else on the team have additional comments there?
No, I think Jay covered that really well, both in terms of what the tech offering is and how that's unique, but also in terms of the token piece. It really is a token piece that allows us, to make it easy for developers to choose whatever token they want their end users to pay for the gas fees. And again, maybe you don't want your end users to pay anything for gas fees. You'll find other ways to generate revenue. But it also allows us to work really well with existing games, existing platforms, and of course, other layer ones. So yeah, I think that all is a really good encapsulation of why Saga is unique.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, finish what you said. I was just going to move to the next question.
Oh, I was just going to say, in like the early days of Web 2, I don't know if anyone would have guessed that Google had become one of the biggest companies offering free search just through data. And then like Instagram became massive, also doing a freemium model, but paying with subscription, watching videos and advertising. So I think it really opens up the ways that a blockchain could be incorporated into a tech stack and ways of monetization. Anyway, go ahead, Rex.
So Avtogen, he says, as you know, GameFi and NFTs are less popular in Cosmos as in Ethereum, Solana, or BSC. Do you fear that we'll have low need for our services in the Saga verse?
Yeah, that's a decent question. I just think that demand isn't there right now, but Saga isn't actually doing our business development and aiming at the Cosmos per se. Like we're dreaming way bigger than that, and I think Cosmos is just in the early days of its NFT GameFi design. So, I mean, with the announcement of like DYDX coming over, there's just this general rumbling that app chains and interoperability, multi-chain is the future. So, yeah, Cosmos is still young in a lot of senses, and we're not just solely focused on the Cosmos. So, but I would love to hear what some other team members have to say.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Joe. So first and foremost, our BD is not focused on Cosmos at all. It really hasn't been even from day zero. Once we reveal who the initial cohort of 50 projects and our initial partners are, you'll see that there aren't going to be too many Cosmos names in there. And that's because the whole purpose of Saga was not to sort of take what Cosmos already had and make it slightly better. It was to open the Cosmos to the rest of the Web3 ecosystem, but also to people coming into Web3 for the first time. The whole purpose is to make this experience as easy as possible for people who are not as technologically sophisticated or have as long a track record as people who have been working in Cosmos for a while. So the fact that Cosmos has not really done too much in gaming and entertainment yet is actually, I mean, exactly the reason why. We are really staking a claim in the ecosystem. We're also really distinguishing ourselves when it comes to talking to parties outside of the ecosystem. So yeah, I would say think of us this way. There are many, many, many chains out there that are based on Cosmos technology, but they are not really considered quote unquote Cosmos projects. I would say that we share a lot with them. Having said that, we do come from the heart of Cosmos. For those of you who have met us on the team, you know that many of us come from projects that are within the core of Cosmos, like Tendermint, Ignite, working with the Interchain Foundation and Formal Systems. So we have deep connections here, and we consider ourselves a part of the Cosmos community. Having said that, we are very much external facing, and that's already reflected in the kind of partners that we're bringing on and the projects that are building on here. So I wouldn't think of this as, Saga belongs to Cosmos, and anything that's happening in gaming and entertainment in Cosmos applies to Saga and nothing else. I would think much more expansively than that.
He had a follow-on question, or she had a follow. In the future, are you planning to expand to non-Cosmos chains?
Yes. So one of the first cohort of partners that we'll bring on are projects that are building bridging technologies to other chains. And even before that, AlphaNet is going to be the Ethereum virtual machine. So how a developer launches, once again, is just make sure that your smart contract is deployed in an EVM. Then you can go to Saga and just through command line be able to deploy that VM onto its own dedicated chain automatically. So we're already reaching into Ethereum with our initial deployment. We'll expand to other virtual machines from there. The ambition is to be VM agnostic. And that includes VMs from other ecosystems. But ultimately, you can imagine, say it's a Solana VM, for instance. So it's great that a Solana VM can deploy onto its own dedicated chain in Cosmos. But then, there's all this chain activity. And what happens if actually this Solana game it already existed and it's already on the Solana chain? They just look to expand their block space. Then there needs to be bridging between the instance of the game on Saga and the instance of the game on Solana. So bridging technology is incredibly important for us, but I would say we're starting first with our choice of the EVM as our AlphaNet virtual machine, and we'll move further from there into bridging to other ecosystems.
We have a developer asking, are you going to provide something similar to Polkadot parachains? And I guess, are you a validator for other chains, and could we stake tokens to yours?
So I am going to answer the last two questions first, and then I'll let you and Joe sort of reiterate what the differences are between us and parachains. So we are not currently a validator to anyone else. We will be opening up our validator conversations after AlphaNet, I would say. The focus for AlphaNet is really on the developer experience and making sure we lock that down, get good feedback on it, and iterate. But with respect to validators, so you might be asking, well, once you have the developer experience down, what more is there to do before mainnet? The magic of being able to launch your own chain automatically is due to everything that happens on the back end. So a lot of the innovation coming out of Saga has to do with validator orchestration. And so we'll be working very closely with our initial cohort of validators to make sure that they have the tooling necessary to be able to spin up potentially 1,000 chains in the multiverse. So we are not currently a validator. We will be opening up conversations with validators. I know that we've gotten a lot of validator interest, and we really appreciate it. But I would say that that conversation will happen maybe a couple months from now. In terms of staking, so yeah, once we open up the network, the Saga token is used for staking. So yeah, there will be lots of possibilities there. And I think Jin can probably speak a little more as to what staking economics will be. But yeah, Rex, Joe, if you guys want to elaborate on the parachain point and Polkadot.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I'd say in principle, they are pretty similar, where the main chain on Polkadot, or the dot coin, is being staked, and it's securing all these underlying chains. I'm not. They call them parachains, I think, but parachains and chainlets are very similar concept. The difference is with Polkadot, it has a auction model to get into the one of the slots, and I think there's a fixed number of like 50 or 100 slots, and they have this this strange auction model where everybody competitively bids for this. I always think of it like a shopping mall. Like you have a shopping mall that all like shares the same like security guard system, and you are bidding for the space in the mall. So the first one I think was about $100 million of DOT. That was the final auction price, and these coins get locked up for 3 years. I think it's like 3 years you have that spot. So in my mind, the issue with this is that what kind of developer team that's just starting a project has $150 million to set aside to get chain security? With a interoperability solution, which they call XCMP, that is marginal at best, and they're working on integrating IBC at the moment. So it's just going to look like they're probably going to use the Cosmos interoperability tech. So in my mind, it's just the idea of lowering the barrier of entry to get a new blockchain established isn't really solved with the Polkadot model. Because I don't really consider $150 million of capital locked up for 3 years as like a low barrier. That's incredibly high. Where ours is just more of just permissionless access to block space. If you pay the block space cost, then you get your chainlet ran. So it's just more of a permissionless model and low barrier of entry.
That's right. And one of the things that we're doing is, obviously we're trying to ultimately commoditize block space, and the problem with Polkadot's model is that it doesn't commoditize it, because essentially you have a like an auction mechanism that technically, as more people come in, because there's a limited amount of block space total in that system, prices for block space technically go up as demand goes up, which is kind of like the opposite of the design that we're thinking. Essentially, what we're thinking is, as there are more and more chainlets, there should be more cost savings that are possible with our validators, because you're stacking essentially more and more systems more efficiently onto a rack of compute. So to fully commoditize the block space on our end, essentially we're designing our token economic system such that over time the validators are incentivized, and the delegators are incentivized to delegate to validators who can commit to essentially cheaper and cheaper block space. and there should be an equilibrium that's set essentially by the market that Saga creates, and which is very different from the way that Polkadot is thinking about it. As you said, on our end, block space is something that should be over time plentiful, and people shouldn't be bidding on it to try to get access to it. It should be kind of the other way around, where if there is demand, then supply can catch up to it ultimately.
More like the Amazon AWS model, of where there's not a shortage of compute at AWS, and you pay the market price for that compute. So yeah, we're going the same direction, where we want to be the specialists at providing block space and provide it at the cheapest cost in the whole market.
Yeah, so I guess an easy way to think about this, if you going back to Joe's mall example, is you can kind of imagine Polkadot as a mall with limited capacity, and essentially Saga is a service that builds strip malls for you, which is, it's like you want to put a store here, like, why don't we build this thing for you instead of you coming into this little strip mall that and compete for rent prices ultimately.
Yeah, it's a nice way of putting it. Everyone just gets their own personal mall, and then we have IBC, so these malls can transact and have economic relationships with one another while staying sovereign. At least they're not as sovereign as like a straight up Cosmos SDK chain, because that's a very high bar. That's like as sovereign as you can get. But compared to sharing a monolithic block space and not being able to choose your virtual machine, it's a world better.
Yeah, and I would just add, so the two things that don't come naturally to you any longer because it's not a fully sovereign chain are governance and then your token as a staking token. So we have had projects ask us, well, if we want to keep both of those things, how do we go about it? There are ways to do it. So it would be synthetic at that point. Staking would not be staking for security per se, but there are ways to basically mimic staking rewards on your chainlet without the security aspect. With respect to governance, so we are all pro-democracy. If you really want governance, you should definitely go for it. We personally think that governance is one of those things that is a necessity of having a chain, as opposed to something that you really, really want to improve your chain experience. But hey, if you really want to keep governance, then obviously there are ways that you can do voting mechanisms with your users such that you do have governance. But those are things that you would have to figure out anyway if you were to do your own chain. And so we can help you with that. Those are the two things that I would just highlight as, okay, if you're deciding between having your own chain on Saga or not, then those are things that you might potentially keep in mind. But just to let you know that we've come across this and there are ways to solve for both of them.
Cool. I feel like that covered that one pretty well. Was there a second part to that question, Rex, or should we move on to the next one?
I can't remember what the question. Sorry, I was answering.
It was like the parachain different. Yeah, we can just move on to the next one. Whatever.
Yeah, okay. So Avtogen, in the future, projects will come to you to ask to help them build a chain, and it will be either Cosmos blockchain or L1 EVM network. As I know, there's no such ecosystems like EVM and Cosmos, don't counting Polkadot at this time, where you can easily create similar chains. So our chains are built using the Cosmos SDK, and we support Ethereum virtual machine, and then we're going to add support for Cosm, Wasm later. So I think we sort of answered this question, or maybe I misunderstood exactly what he's saying here.
No, I think we pretty much answered it. Like
we can answer this.
He's correct that right now there is, or he or she's correct that right now there is no Polkadot parachain equivalent in the Cosmos. Once the interchain security is ready for Atom, there will be the first form of like multi-blockchain shared security in the Cosmos. It'll be different than Polkadot's model because you'll have to submit a governance proposal and get it approved by the Atom validator set, and then you are pretty much in the club, and your chain will be validated by the Atom validators until a governance proposal turns them off. And
Yeah. So I mean,
oh, sorry.
Imagine also it's kind of how what Joe said earlier with Polkadot with parachains. It's essentially permission because you need to pass this auction essentially. The Atom shared security model, while slightly different, will also essentially be permissioned because you need to pass governance, right? So for the various reasons how we described how we're different from the Polkadot model, which is a lot of in our sense it's very permissionless, and so it's going to be different from the Atom model as well, which is going to be a slightly different design space. Sorry, I interrupted you.
I want to pick on a few minutes. I want to pick on Gearmund. Gearmund, are you there? Can you talk about your project for a little bit, just because we have a few minutes? He may or may not be listening. Can you promote him to a speaker, Joe?
I just invite him. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
We have a live developer. Can you?
Just 1 second. Let me close the window here. It's a little bit noisy.
Yeah. We ran into Gearmund at Consensus, and he was at every single Cosmos talk, and he's looking at. I believe you're going to be launching your own chain in coming months. So I'd love to hear from you your thought process as a developer around why Cosmos and why are you picking this? Why are you launching your own chain for folks that are less familiar with our ecosystem?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're coming from not exactly Web 2 world, but I mean when we started our project 4 years ago in 2018, we sort of the goal we wanted to reach then was to use we wanted to answer the question, can we use blockchain technology to incentivize collection of plastic waste and cleanups and sort of mimic this Norwegian bottle deposit system where you get back 97% of the plastic bottles back into recycling and it's reused. So it's can we use blockchain technology to sort of deploy something similar worldwide? So basically that first year we realized sort of the technology was not mature enough to really do what we wanted to do. And also we realized the problem was a lot more complex than we thought. So we sort of worked on creating a Web 2 platform for the past 3 years, and now that I've been following Cosmos, well, frankly, a lot of the other ecosystems during those years, and I did consider Polkadot as well, but what sort of got me to the Cosmos side of things was simply it seemed infeasible to me as a startup with who's trying to not spend more money than we absolutely have to try to compete in the Polkadot space to get any kind of security there. It seemed just completely. It seemed way too risky to even try. So I think the whole openness and the choice of different solutions on the Cosmos was definitely one of the biggest contributors there. When we sort of made this decision, which is actually a while ago, we actually I anticipated that there would be more similar solutions like this, interchain security and Saga, and these different ways of quickly spinning up your own chain. So, I mean, I think I'm still not even sure if it's going to be our chain is going to be a fully independent one, or if we're gonna try for interchain security or what. But I mean, we're building on the Cosmos SDK now, so yeah, we'll see. But it's that's sort of where I was coming from, was from already a blockchain centric view, but we had to go Web 2 for a while. Now we're coming back simply because the technology is starting to get there. So now we can actually solve some of the problems that we've been doing the Web 2 way. Now we want to scale it and decentralize it. So that's sort of, and the technology is starting to get there.
Yeah, the cool part about Cosmos is you get so many different options for what life cycle of a project you're at. So like, let's say, like if you wanted to launch tomorrow, you could launch on Juno. And then once you started getting too big and demand too much block space, it gets too expensive, whatever, you can move to your own CosmWasm chain or come over to Saga and have your own chainlet. So there's just a lot of different ways to explore the Cosmos tech stack and build the right product for what you need.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And that's from a startup point of view, having those options when you go into this is extremely important, because if you think you know what things are going to look like 6 months from now, you're you're probably delusional, because things change so quickly. That's having the option to deploy in different ways is just incredibly great, and it's also one of the reasons why I like Saga so much. Is simply because it's another really low barrier solution to deploy stuff. So like the more the merrier.
Yeah, it's great to see Saga attracting projects like yours. At the same time, it's attracting projects like DYDX. So it's really anyone in the crypto life stage can find a home in the Cosmos for what they're building. Yeah,
exactly. I think that's exactly it. And the more of this we have ready to go and can offer to other projects, even established one, like you said, I think it's going to be amazing, and add all the new IBC stuff and everything there on top of it. It's going to be pretty amazing. I'm particularly excited about all the interchain accounts and all the abilities that brings for us, and yeah, I guess for a lot of others too.
Yeah, I was just about to talk about interchain accounts. Awesome. Is there any other anybody in the community that wants to come up, or should we go through Q&As, or because we're getting just close to the end of the hour? So
raise your hand if you want to talk.
Yeah. We appreciate you coming up on the stage, Guillermo, and that you came to all the Cosmos and Saga events and Consensus. So hopefully we'll be seeing you around.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure, and sorry for all the questions during the events.
No, it's great. We love it. Cool. Well, if nobody in the audience wants to come on stage, I think we'll probably close this out at the hour. We appreciate everybody coming here. This was a fun chat. We're going to plan on doing this on a weekly format, hopefully bring in more developers, and have in future events, we'll have dedicated people building in Web3 that will be coming and chit-chatting with us. And yeah. Does anybody else on the team have any final closing comments here?
Just want to thank all of you for coming today. We are going to do these community calls on a weekly basis. Today was meant to really just kind of level set after we've all been busy with conference season and traveling, and just to give you guys a brief update as to what we've been working on. But the closer we get to AlphaNet, and certainly after we launch AlphaNet, the more information will be offered in these community calls, and all the developers that we work with in the initial cohort are going to get individual touch points with the team, so you'll have a place to ask questions. But if you wanted to come here, or your friends wanted to come here, to ask questions for the benefit of the group. The community calls will be there for that purpose as well. And I think a lot of people come on here to hear some alpha get dropped, and we'll sprinkle that in there over the next few weeks. Again, as we get closer and closer to product launch. But appreciate you guys coming. Thank you again for taking the time, for all you do in the crypto ecosystem. I think one thing that won't change after this bear is I think the crypto community still considers itself very, very unique as a whole. And I think when you talk to people in TradFi, certainly, or when you talk to people in traditional gaming and entertainment, you're kind of reminded just how unique the space is. And I don't think that culture is ever going to change, even after more people come into our industry. It's more that we will change how they think about things as opposed to the other way around. So anyway, it's always great to hang out with you guys. Thank you again. And yeah, we'll see y'all soon.
Bye. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you, community. Bye-bye.
Bye.